In this video, we're going to be reviewing H&R Block Online. Specifically, we'll be looking at three different things. The first is how user-friendly it is, if they use technical terminology or if they use terminology that everyone can understand. Number two is how their calculations are, if they're calculating credits correctly, if everything is flowing through the way that I would expect it to based on the inputs that I've done. And number three, the value, if the prices that they're charging or the different things that they're offering are worth it. And I'm going to be going through the free version specifically, going to try and keep everything so it's the free H&R Block Online, and we'll see how that goes. But if this is the first time we've met, my name's Kip Lewis. I'm a CPA, I have my master's degree in accountancy with an emphasis in taxation, and I spend a lot of time doing taxes, like it's my full-time job. And so that's why we're going to go through and review this software. Here we have the main screen. This is what it looks like when you first log back into your account. So I've been through the process, I've been through all the different screens, input the information that I was going to use for this tax return. And so we're just going to run through some of the more important things, and I'm going to point out some of the positives and the negatives of this tax preparation software. So the first thing I want to point out is in the income. So when we look at the W-2 income right here, so as you look at this income screen, you can see this is just the W-2, and you'll notice that these inputs match what is on your W-2. And so it's really user-friendly. You can see that boxes 1, 3, 5, all of them are matching up with what should be on the Form W-2 that you received. And so that's really helpful. You're not having to guess whether the boxes are, you're putting things in the right area, because it's right there. It's defined, it's described, it's showing you exactly where you need to put things. I think that's really good. That's definitely a positive. One thing you'll notice is I used Nevada as my state for this tax return because Nevada doesn't have state taxes, and so we won't have to worry about that when it comes down to it. H&R Block Online does charge for each state tax return, and since we wanted to keep this as a free tax return, I chose a non-state tax state. Another thing that I wanted to point out, though, is in the credits. You'll notice as we go to the tuition and fees, this is one of the education credits, and I was very specific in all of my inputs with my income and then answering all these different questions so that I would be eligible for the American Opportunity Tax Credit. That is the best education credit you can receive. It has a refundable and a non-refundable portion. It is the best. And so as I go through these screens, I'm not going to take a lot of time to discuss what each question is asking, but I did specifically answer the questions so that I could get the AOTC credit as opposed to the lifetime learning or the tuition and fees. So I went through each of these, answered them. Notice here, as we start doing inputs for the 1098-T, which is the tax form you should receive from your school saying that this is how much you paid in tuition, this is how much you got in scholarships. And you'll notice that these do not match up with the Form 1098-T. It has box 1 here on this page, and it has other questions from other parts of the 1098-T, and then also here we have some of the other boxes, and so that can be kind of confusing. One thing that you would have noticed going through those screens is the amounts that I put in specifically so that I could maximize and optimize that American Opportunity Tax Credit, meaning I should be able to get the full refundable amount as well as the non-refundable portion. So you'll see here that they're not allowing me to take the American Opportunity Tax Credit at all. They're forcing me to take the Lifetime Learning Credit, and that shouldn't be the case. The questions that I answered, I did not disqualify myself from the AOTC specifically so that I could get that credit. It's the best credit. If we click here on the Learn More, it even talks about it. The maximum credit, $2,500 for the AOTC. It talks about how you get those things, but I'm going to say no, that's not helpful. And it's not helpful because I should qualify, I should have that option, and it's not giving that to me. I've been through this screen probably 5 or 6 times, changing some of the answers just to see if it's coded weird, and I can't come up with a reason why I'm not qualifying for the American Opportunity Tax Credit. And so that's a negative. That's not a good thing. That's essentially money out of my pocket. There should be a $1,000 refundable portion added to my refund, and I'm not getting it. And so that's one of the other critiques that I have, is they're not actually showing me the calculations that they have for these tax credits. They're just showing me that, hey, these are the credits that you have. And I don't like that. Here on this screen specifically, I don't like that it's showing that I'm getting both the child tax credit and the additional child tax credit, because that's not real. Essentially what the additional child tax credit is it's the refundable portion of the child tax credit. And so the fact that both of them are on there doesn't make a lot of sense. You're not going to get a $2,000 child tax credit plus an $857 additional child tax credit. That's not a thing. And so that's another thing to think about. You'll also see that there's that $2,000 lifetime learning credit. I don't want that. I want the American Opportunity. I want the refundable stuff. So here we'll go into another thing. You'll notice here in the deductions, I'll go to the home screen for deductions. Home mortgage interest, real estate taxes, cash donations. What these are itemized deductions, and itemized is not available in H&R Block Online free. If you want the free version of H&R Block, then you're not going to itemize. And so you'll notice even though I have things input here, they're still just giving me the standard deduction. If I can look, the standard deduction is best for you, which $24,400, that's great. But had I had enough itemized deductions in order to itemize instead of get the standard deduction, I would have had to start paying. The itemized deduction is not part of the free version of this software. Here's another thing that I thought was interesting is the Affordable Care Act portion. Specifically, they're asking for the 1095A and 8962. Essentially what that means is if you received a 1095A, it's because you enrolled in marketplace insurance. You have, not through your employer, not through being self-employed, but you got it through the healthcare marketplace. And if that's the case, there is a chance that you're going to have to repay some of that advanced premium tax credit that you received through the marketplace. Down in the description and at an end card at the end of the video, I'll put a link to where you can go to another one of my videos that talks about the Affordable Care Act and the perils of the advanced premium tax credit. It's something that people aren't widely aware of, and yes, it can benefit people if you know how to plan correctly, but I've seen people have to pay back thousands and thousands, up to $15,000, $20,000 back in advanced premium tax credit, and they didn't even know they had the credit. But that's a different video. Again, check out the link down in the description to get more information on that. So now let's talk about the value. Notice they're not having me pay for my tax prep. I've already been through that step. They didn't make me go back to it, but because I'm filing for free, it doesn't matter. But how to get my refund, this one I actually thought was pretty interesting, and so I'll run through it really quickly. That total refund, they let you go through, so you show your refund options, and no matter which one of these you choose, they're going to give you the option to add it to an Amazon gift card instead, and then they'll give you 4% bonus. I think that's really cool. I haven't seen this with any of the other online softwares that I've reviewed, and so if you spend a lot on Amazon, or if you do a lot with Amazon, this is a great deal. You're going to get 4% of your refund on a card. That's awesome. I'm going to say no thanks. And then here is the approval process that they want you to go through. And it's just like any other tax preparation. You have to give them approval. Yes, what you're showing me is right. I want you to file these for me. And that's cool. Another thing that I wanted to go through is kind of these wrap-up steps. They're kind of interesting. They have some good things to know, good things to look at. Specifically, I wanted to look at this page. This is awesome. If you have a tax form and you don't know where it's supposed to go, or you haven't already input it somewhere, they give you the option of looking it up, and you're able to find it. So here, 1099 S for sale of a home. This one's going to make you pay, so we're not going to go through that process, but you'll notice I can just look it up and boom, here it is. And so I thought that was pretty cool that they give you this option to search through different forms that you might have received that you don't know where they go. It's very helpful. I thought that was awesome. And so here's the breakdown of 2019 federal taxes. Here it shows everything that you're getting. Again, it doesn't show the calculations, which is kind of frustrating, but it's understandable that they're not going to show you how they're calculating everything, or else you could just take those numbers and file it yourself. I guess you're doing the free file with this version, so anyway, I wish they'd show you the calculations. Okay, here's another thing that I actually found. This is actually pretty good value. So normally there is a 6-year retention policy that every tax preparation firm has to abide by. It seems like because you're filing for free, they don't have to do that. So they're only going to store these returns until November 2020. That's not very long. And so they, on the next screen, they're going to say, make sure you print these out and save some for your records because we're not going to. And so they're saying for 15 bucks, they'll store it for 6 years, they'll give you access for 24/7, and it'll automatically import your data for next year's stuff. Pretty cool. That's actually pretty good value, especially if you're going to continue using H&R Block Online. That's a really good value. I would suggest it, but we're going to say no, thank you. Great news, don't need to file a Nevada return, we know. Okay, here's another thing that they're going to try and upsell you on is having a tax professional review and sign your return. At this point, I want to go and look here. On this page, it kind of goes through some of the different versions that you can pay for. You can do it yourself for free, starting for free, and then it just kind of goes up and up and up and up. One thing I noticed is on this one, if you're going to upload your docs and let someone else do it for you, if you're a business owner, you're paying $249 plus $39 per state to have someone do it for you. You know, that's what a CPA firm is going to charge you, or at least close to it. And so if you're going to be doing that, you might as well meet one-on-one with someone, meet with someone that you know personally, and have them do your stuff. There's no reason to have a stranger working on your stuff when you could be developing a relationship with your CPA, when you could be developing a relationship with someone who is not only going to help you with your tax situation, but could be a good advisor for you. And so I just thought it was interesting how much they charge you for being a business owner. I also thought it was interesting that if you have a family or investment income sometimes just means that you own a little bit of stock. Investment income could just mean you have some interest income. So if they're going to charge you $200 for having children and for having investment income, you're kind of getting ripped off there. So not great value. Again, probably the best value that I've seen is just doing it yourself for free. Once you start paying for things, the value goes down drastically. Okay, so there's another thing that I wanted to go over. It's the audit protection and the identity theft protection that they offer. I believe it's $20 for the identity theft and $15 for the audit protection, and you can get it combined for like $35. That's a steal of a deal. I'm not going to lie, that actually is a really good deal. I think the last statistic that I heard is you have 1/2 of 1% of a chance of getting audited by the IRS. Pretty low chances. But along with the IRS audit protection is they will help you respond to IRS notices. And that in and of itself is a huge value. I'm not sure if those are the exact figures for how much it cost, but I just remember as I was reviewing things, I can't find it right now. It's not showing up for me again. But as I was reviewing things, I just thought to myself, that's actually a really good deal. If you're filing for free, you probably don't have a huge audit risk. You're probably not taking deductions or credits that are questionable, and so probably don't need to worry about it if you're looking to do your stuff for free. But if you do have a business, if you do have something larger like that, then a more advanced tax situation, then that audit protection is really good. And then the identity theft stuff, it was pretty good too, especially for the cost. It was pretty good value, it seemed like. I've never dealt with identity theft myself, so I don't know how good or bad that protection was, but it seems really good. And then finally with value, here on this screen, we're looking at what is included in the different types of H&R Block. And so you can see they have the free plus column, the deluxe, the premium, self-employed, and then tax pro review. And essentially what that means is certain forms, such as that first line, Form 1040, individual income tax return, that's just your basic tax return. And it's available for all of them. And as we scroll down, you'll see, oh, there's the mortgage interest statement. It is not supported with free. You'll have to upgrade to deluxe or premium. As we keep going, 1099 miscellaneous. So if you did any type of work and you were a contractor and not an employee, you can't do free anymore. Any itemized deductions, we talked about that already. Schedule C, you're going to have to upgrade up to the self-employed. That one was more expensive. I think it was $100, $200. So you'll see a self-employment tax. That goes along with your Schedule C as well. If you own any rentals, if you own any farms, if you're getting a K1, you'll see that things aren't included in the free version that are included in the more expensive versions, which makes sense. One thing that I didn't like that's not included in the free version is the 1099-R, that's for retirement. Say you work for an employer and then you leave that employer, you go work for someone else. If you had a retirement account in that first employer, whether it be a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, whatever it may be, a lot of times they don't want to keep track of that for you. And so they'll issue you a disbursement check, and then it's up to you to roll that over into a new retirement account. Even if you do that, you're still going to get a 1099-R. And with that 1099-R, that's going to disqualify you from filing for free with H&R Block Online. And so just things to be aware of. This was a really helpful form that I found. You can find it here. If you just go to the overview screen at the very beginning, right there, view federal forms, and it'll pop up, show you everything that is available for you. And so there we go, finally popped up. So just to give an overview of what we've talked about, so when it comes to the input screens, when it comes to being user-friendly, I think H&R Block Online does a pretty good job. The W-2 screen looks just like the forms. Some of the other input screens, the tax credits specifically, weren't as user-friendly, didn't match the forms as well, but they did a good job at explaining things. I also think they did a pretty good job at not using technical jargon. They were able to speak more in layman's terms, which I think is appropriate, which I think is helpful. One thing that I didn't like necessarily, and I don't think I showed this in this video, but a lot of times you'll kind of get in a loop where you start clicking and they make you go through a whole process of answering questions that you've already answered, and there's no way to get out of it without clicking out, and then you've missed what you were probably looking for. So that's one negative. When it comes to their calculations, I can't really have an opinion on it because I didn't see them, but I do know that I was very specific in what I input into the software so that I could maximize the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and it didn't offer that to me at all. I wasn't able to get it, and like I said, I tried 5 or 6 different ways of getting it to calculate, and it never did. And so I don't know. I really just don't know. And so they kind of get an F on that one. That's a $1,000 refundable credit plus a non-refundable portion of $1,500 that I'm not getting. And so that's just really crappy. And then when it comes to the value, I think the value is great, especially if you're doing the free version. If you're a student, H&R Block Online is where you should go. It really is. I know a lot of college campuses have VITA, and VITA's fine, but H&R Block Online, I think, has greater potential and less lines. If you don't know what VITA is, you can Google it. Other things that were valuable, I think that their record retention offer is pretty good. It's also easy for you to just print it out, print it to PDF, and save it on your desktop. Not that big of a deal. Their auto protection is awesome. I didn't read through all of the auto protection documents, but if it's anything like the auto protection that my firm provides, then that is a rock star deal. You should buy that every single time, especially once your tax situation gets more advanced. That is phenomenal. Go for it. Do it now. Overall, H&R Block Online, they get my thumbs up. I ultimately like what they have to offer, and I wouldn't use it myself because I have other methods of preparing taxes, but for those clients of mine who maybe have kids that want their taxes filed, if they don't want to pay me to do it, I would feel comfortable suggesting H&R Block Online to have them prepare their own taxes. I really hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, I encourage you to hit that like button and go ahead and ring that bell to subscribe, and keep your eyes out for more tax tips and tools to answer the questions you didn't know you had.